From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm old Alan Autry. Excuse me. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here most days from 12 to 1 p.m. to visit with y'all, whether it be over the radio or social media. It's just really an enjoyable time for me, but some very sad stuff we have to start off with. Some breaking news here because we are live. If you haven't heard yet, there's been a tragic shooting in Oxford, Michigan. I'm looking at the TV screen in our studios here right now. So far, we have 3 dead, 6 hurt. One of those is a teacher. We don't know if the teacher's one of the deceased or one that is in the hospital. But, excuse me, it just, it's so sad. We do know, apparently, the police chief just had a press conference, and I think I heard him correctly, that it was a sophomore student there at the school who was the shooter. And we get so many of these, it seems like, in our country. And to me, it's sad on so many levels. I automatically go to how the parents, loved ones of these kids. When I went to school, and I think I speak for a lot of folks out there my age and even way younger than me, before all of this phenomena started with school shootings, with Columbine was actually the one that really started it all. From, I think before that, you just didn't hear about things like that at a school. The school was a safe place. It was a second home. And you took the bus to school, and when I was little, and Mama would give me a little hug and pat me on the back, and I had a little sack lunch, and get on that bus. You didn't worry. She never told me. Shoot, you went off to school, and you just knew that the school, they were going to be taken care of. They were going to be protected. Your kids were going to be okay. I know that's the way it was with my kids. Most of my kids are grown. My 2 daughters, I never thought about that then. With my son, who's 25, it was a post-Columbine world, so the thought did cross your mind from time to time, but not to the point where you dwelled on it. But I just, obviously, for the young kids that were killed, for the wounded, we just pray for their recovery, and for the friends and the parents and everyone who how could you not feel for the folks here? Just feel so sad. And then another thing that makes me just take a deep breath and shake my head. And, don't get me wrong. I want to stay around here as long as I can on this earth. But I get it now. You get to an age where you say, the Lord calls me home. I'm ready. I'm ready. This world is just really a tough place. It's goodness doesn't always seem like it wins out, although we know God's in charge and he has his perfect plan working out. That's working out before us. As the Christian song says, things aren't falling apart, they're just falling in place. It just doesn't seem like it many times. But I just sit here and I think, well, here we go again. Here, instead of, I think, zeroing in on what we should zero in on, which is we have a crisis of the heart in this country. We have a crisis of spirit. We see church attendance going down. We see things to build moral character, the traditional things that this country was founded upon, and you would hope for the whole world, being de-emphasized into kind of a godless, secular soup. And the first thing I know that's going to come out when I go home and turn on my TV programs, all over CNN and MSNBC and most of the mainstream medias, it won't be about how do we truly get inside this young man's mind and how we can help those who may have suffered or may be suffering the same affliction. Because obviously, I'm going to draw a conclusion right now. The young man was not mentally stable, obviously. But it's going to be about the guns. But where did he get the gun? If he wouldn't have had the gun, this wouldn't have happened. Well, no, with a mind that is this disturbed, that is so racked with mental illness, you're going to probably act out on it in some way. You're going to find a gun. I mean, my goodness, you can get online and make a gun. And I'm for sensible gun controls. Don't get me wrong, folks. I am for that. I'm not one of these guys that says, if I want a tank and I want to park it in my driveway, I damn well have the right to do that. I'm not one of those guys. But I'm a deeply, deeply committed Second Amendment individual that you have a right to bear arms. Should you have some kind of proficiency in how to operate that weapon? You bet. Should there be an age of which you're able to have a gun? You bet. But the big issue here, from my perspective, and I think I speak for many out there, is the mental health aspect. We talk about it all the time, but it doesn't seem like the government really does anything about it. Oh, you'll see something in this Build Back Better thing of a jig, which is going to be disastrous for this economy if it goes through. But there'll be some token stuff in there in terms of money earmarked for mental health. But to really address it as a national crisis, anything less than that is not going to make a difference in this. I think I'm going to be Captain Obvious here. When you look at statistics, you have our veterans committing suicide at a record rate. During COVID, you had teenagers committing suicide at an all-time rate. You see opioid overdoses, over 100,000 last year, the most of all time. You see alcohol consumption at all-time highs. You see domestic violence at all-time highs. You see crime all over the country at all-time highs, alcohol and drug-fueled, most of it. You got to be left with the conclusion that something's really out of alignment in this country. And unless we have the courage to address it as what it truly is, a spiritual battle, and encourage the spiritual bedrock of this country, which our founding fathers based this country on. You look at the founding documents. It's all based on a belief in God, a reliance upon God if America was to survive. Then we clearly see that those minds and those hearts knew how important it was to bring God and keep God at the front and center of this country. And you say, why do you bring that up with the shooting? Because if we do that, these issues, this thing that happens, this tragedy that happens, won't happen, be argued about on TV, putting it in whether you should have a gun or not, and gun control, and then it's on to the midterm elections. And people will just use this issue whether they think it can help them politically get elected. They have no intention of being the leading force in mental health reform and making mental health, especially with our kids, a focus. And I'm going to, in this little segment, on something that may rub somebody the wrong way, some folks, it's just what I believe. And if I don't tell you what I believe, I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but I would be disingenuous. I'd be lying. When I first program, I stood behind this mic. I made you a promise. I didn't promise you I would be some slick, articulate talk show host, the second coming of Rush Limbaugh. I knew I was not. I just felt a calling that I was supposed to be here at this time of my life, and I was just going to be me, and I wasn't going to hold back on what I felt, not to purposely make anybody uneasy, but just to tell the truth. And I also made myself a promise to try to not say things out of fleshly anger. Righteous anger, okay. And that's a constant battle for all of us. So what I'm about to say here is, again, it may not be controversial. I know some people aren't going to like it, but I believe it. Again, we don't know what the motivations on this young man are. He's in custody right now. We're going to find out more about him. Sometimes in these instances, quite often in these instances, the individual is so mentally disturbed that they kill people, then turn the gun on themselves. That's a very common occurrence in shootings like this. It didn't happen. They have the young man. And I watch this, as tragic as it is, and I say to myself, and here's where it may get a little controversial. I'm saying to myself, I'm surprised this hasn't happened many, many times before after this COVID lockdown stuff. I know that goes right. Well, you're criticizing Fauci for the lockdown. Listen, I don't know all of how the sausage was made when you say we're going to lock up our kids for nearly a year and a half. We're going to make them wear masks, and people wear masks so everybody looks like Hannibal Lecter to them. We're going to shut down schools, places where that is the only place some kids feel safe is at school, because there's a flip side. Yeah, some people have a bad home life, but some people have, because of that bad home life, they go to school to get away from it. A lot of people, school is not a place, but it's a mixed bag. But I look at how these kids, I mean, adults, look at us, our adults, us. It's taken a toll on you, hasn't it? Everybody listening here, be honest with yourself. Mentally, emotionally, are you the same as you were before the pandemic? Facebook folks, are you the same? I know I'm not. It's a battle. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every day. Imagine what our kids have gone through. Now, did this contribute? It's in Michigan, which had some of the strictest draconian lockdown laws in the nation. The governor there was very, very authoritarian on what you could and could not do. Some would even call it draconian. And in particular, the schools. We're going to find out. My hunch is that you're going to find out that it probably played a big part. And again, I'm thankful that, this is one instance where what I feel you're seeing the consequences of this lockdown. The sole reason, I'm not going to go there. I don't have enough information. But to me, in my way of thinking, it couldn't help but contribute to something like this. And I can always be wrong. But I listened to this morning when it happened. I wasn't surprised. It saddens me to say that, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm an optimist by nature, not a pessimist. I don't like to think this way. But I have a life coaching organization, mentoring organization, been working for kids for over 10 years. And we're in a site right now, a school right now. And the consequences and the effects of this lockdown with these kids are horrific. The things these kids had troubles to begin with in this pandemic, these lockdowns hit, and that underlying mental health issue was just magnified, and they're acting out in ways that you can't even imagine. So anyway, we're going to take a break, but again, I'm going to leave this segment. We're going to talk about the Omicron, however you spell it. This virus that seems to be heading our way, started in South Africa, and there's talks of another lockdown. Is that really a wise decision? Well, we're going to talk about that, and please give me a call. I want to hear from you today. God bless you. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat, and we'll be right back.
We have a caller on the line.
All right. Oh, Facebook folks, it's so sad. So sad. I know every generation seems like I know my dad when he would listen to the music of the time, like early 60s. And society was changing quite a bit. He would just shake his head at some of the things he would hear on TV and see on TV. And it was like he was, that wasn't the world he grew up in. And I guess that's true of every generation when they get older, the torch is being passed. But I truly don't think when you do some historical analysis, I don't think this country's ever experienced anything that's seen so much disconnect, so much lack of a solid nature, of a solid foundation, that our institutions are under attack. My goodness, if you can't agree that there's a mom and a dad, a husband and a wife, a brother and a sister, and you buy into this gender neutrality stuff, and that you're racist, you're born racist, nothing you can change about it if you're white, and black, if you're born black, you're just oppressed, and you're never going to be not oppressed by people, especially white people, and all of this stuff going on. I have never read about our country being in such a situation, and I never experienced it. I've been on the planet for a pretty long time. It's some tough stuff, but we have to be, our kids and grandkids are dependent on us not to buckle, not to give in, to stand strong, to bring light where there's darkness, to not give up. We don't have the option. We don't have the right to just shake our heads, stay in a funk, look around and complain about everything, let our joy be stolen from us. Nobody can steal your joy. You have to give it up. You know that, right? Well, I know nobody can steal my joy if I can give it to them. We can't do that. We can't give them more joy.
We got 30 seconds, and there's a caller on the line.
All right, we got 30 seconds. Go back on radio. Laura, you're on the line. Hang there. We'll go right to you, girl.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. It is such an honor to have you with us. Before we go to our caller on the line, Laura Fisher, you hang in there, Laura. I'll be right there. On a really high note, on a good note, Josephine Baker, that wonderful, wonderful entertainer of years gone by, was just inducted into France's highest honor there, the France Pantheon, for her, great entertainer, obviously, singer, but she really, really helped out the French during World War II, passing on information. It's a whole fascinating story, But Josephine Bain, she was really a warrior for civil rights here in America. But she got France's highest honor, and congratulations posthumously, if I pronounced that correctly, to Josephine. But her family, I know, are very, very honored and happy today that she received that honor. All right, let's go to Laura Fisher on the line. Laura, how art thou?
Hey, I'm well. One of the things that I really just wanted to add to your theory on the COVID lockdown having some influence, I think, it definitely, what I think the COVID lockdown did was laid bare how much isolationism, social media, and virtual reality, and addiction to gaming has caused among especially young people. I mean, most of these kids now, this is terrifying, but most of them won't even look you in the eye. They don't even know how to interact with another human being. And at least before we had that lockdown, they were forced to. By being in in-person learning and being around other people, they did have to socialize. They did have to talk to other people. But then when this lockdown happened, then the isolationism grew and became very malignant. Yeah. And people, the human race just can't live like that. We're not designed that way. We're herd animals by nature. And so, I think that it's having a profound effect on the mental health of our kids.
Yeah, and I am very hesitant to, as they say, rush to judgment. I think that's done so much, especially on the left. And when something like this happened, but I think discussion-wise, even at this early point, I think there's enough circumstantial evidence with all of the information we know now about the effects of this shutdown, and also, as you mentioned, the online gaming. And I don't know if this kid did any of that, but we do know in Michigan they had some of the toughest shutdown laws in the country. And I may regret going there. We may find out that the young man, had nothing to do with it. I just felt at peace is the wrong word. I felt confident, sorrowfully so, to say that this had something to do with it. Because Laura, like I said, and listeners, honest to goodness, I hate saying this, but I remember talking to my wife a lot about this and friends going, I'm surprised things like this with our youth hasn't already happened. And I hope this is not a harbinger of more to come. I'm just saying 2 + 2 = 4,
I think it is, and I don't think it's just one thing. I think that, you can't swing a dead cat without finding a kid that's on every social media platform. You can't. They're addicted. They are addicted to it. It's dangerous. It can be used for good, but when you have an undeveloped mind, that yes, they may look like adults, but they still think like children. They don't have the impulse control. They don't have the critical thinking skills that they're supposed to be getting during this time in their life. And then they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook. A lot of these kids have been bullied because they're already a little different. Maybe they're not as social as other kids. Maybe they're a little awkward. And you put all of that together, and then you compound it. These kids a lot of these kids that do these shootings, look at the kids in Columbine, look at the Virginia Tech shooter. So many of them, they were bullied, they were picked on, they isolated themselves even before social media came about. Now we have this virtual world that they can live in that isn't in touch with reality. And parents, unfortunately, most of them are working 2 jobs and are completely out of touch with their kids.
And you add exactly. And Laura and listeners, you add to this for a whole summer and beyond. If you had a TV, you saw violence in the streets all across the country. 24 people dead, over 1,000 cops injured, and really no consequences for that action. You saw, that can't be good, as you said, for that young, developing teen mind to absorb and process. And like I said, you add all these things together, and you mentioned Columbine. The Columbine, as they delved into that and about these kids and found out more about them in their writings and such, social media, I don't think was around there, but the music. the music played a big part in their motivation to go out and kill. They left it in their writing. So entertainers, movies, social media, these filmmakers,
bit of this blame where it belongs in this mentality. And I'm sorry. I mean, I've been told I was a mean mother. I'm cool with that. But I have seen so many parents. My son's a little bit younger than your son. And I mean, I would see my son's friends could do whatever they wanted. Oh, they needed to have their privacy. And they needed this and they needed, all of these things. They were treated like adults and they were 14 years old. Yeah. Okay, no, I would shake my kids down like FBI. If you want privacy, then go parent in your own home.
I bet you.
I'm not your friend.
I bet you even made them take out the trash, didn't you? Did you do such a horrible thing as that?
No, they had a list of chores. They were not paid any allowance for cleaning their room because they lived in this house, and therefore they had to help take care of it.
Well, hey,
they wanted to do some chores, I'd pay them.
That's child abuse in California. They'll come take you away.
I was told that by my son because they did this whole thing in school about, what's child abuse. And I told him, I said, so help me. You roll your eyes at me. I saw him roll that head of yours on the ground. And he said, oh, do it, and I'll call the police. I said, you go ahead, have me arrested. I said, I'll make bail, and you better find a place to hide. Because if I'm going to be trying something, I'm going to make it worth my while.
Child abuse out here in California, man. You tell a kid they can't come out of the room till their homework's done. They'll haul you away, man. You'll be before a judge before you can say, "Please, Your Honor, don't sentence me."
I would be a habitual offender. That judge would be tired of seeing me. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, Laura, calling in on this, and you bring up some really, really good points. And again, I hate to. I'm not. It's not judgment. We're on a talk show, okay? I know it's on people's mind. I don't think I'm the only. I'm crazy, as Waylon Jennings said. I've always been crazy, but it's kept me from going insane. I don't think I'm the only one who's thought this, going, well, kind of knew this was going to be coming, shooting him. It just, again, we need to know more, and we're going to move on to this Omicron virus there. But again, because it's connected I think, to the content. Well, Laura, I don't know if you're still on the line, but thank you for calling in, dear. If you're okay, she's off the line. Sorry, Laura. I should have made a transition more smoothly there. But let's talk about this Omicron virus out of South Africa. You can't call it the South Africa virus. You can't call it the China virus. I think you can still call it the Spanish flu. Jose, I don't know. They might change that retroactively. They tear down statues, so they might go rename that. But regardless, there's this strain, if you haven't heard, which I know you have, originated in South Africa and is heading our way. And people are going apoplectic. They are going crazy. Folks on the left are saying, prepare, put down the hatches, get ready for another lockdown. This stuff is bad. And CNN will probably be starting the little ticker. Remember that death meter they have on the side when people are dying during Trump administration, which has magically disappeared from the CNN graphic there. Even though we have more COVID deaths in 2021 under Biden than we had under Trump, the death meter isn't working. It's not there for some reason. I don't know. It just kind of just magically disappeared. Probably no political intentions there whatsoever. But I suspect that there will be a meter there, counting down the days that the experts say before the Omicron comes to a place near you, to a restaurant near you, because we're going to shut that down, comes to a school near you, so we're going to have to shut those down. But does this over-the-top fear, is it really justified by, here I go, the science? By the way, did you see Fauci? I don't know if we have that soundbite where Fauci says, if you criticize him, you're criticizing science. He basically said, I am science. I am science. Yep, it happened on Face the Nation, I believe. We'll dig up a soundbite here. If not today, we'll have it tomorrow. Where he said, if you bring up that I said, first of all, don't get masks, that masks don't help, then I changed it. When I said that we're not going to have mandated vaccines, and now you say we have to have mandated vaccines. continue down the list. That's just a partial list. But this virus, by all indications at this point, two things we know that appear rather certain. Number one, on the bad side, it seems to be growing evidence that it's more easily transmissible. Okay, you can catch it easier. On the good side, positive side, it doesn't seem to be as severe as the original old school COVID-19. There hasn't been any deaths reported in South Africa directly attributable to the Omicron virus. It seems like, now let's go out of things we kind of know for sure from the data from South Africa to some trends that are starting to emerge. And those trends, one of them is that if you've been vaccinated, it'll give you some resistance to Omicron. So you have one that's not quite as severe as COVID-19, and the vaccines that you've taken, whether it be Pfizer or Moderna, I don't know about Johnson & Johnson. I don't know. That's kind of like the vaccine you got at remember the blue light specials at Kmart, where you go there and they had these things in a big bin there, these, little toys and everything that nobody else wanted. Well, it's where they put the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. You only take one, but it only lasts, a couple of days. Its efficacy. So you take that out of the picture, the Johnson & Johnson. But it seems like the two vaccines that most people took provides some protection. But we don't know for sure. But what we do know for sure is the campaign of fear has officially begun. They're already talking about lockdowns again, already talking about schools being closed, going back to distance learning. And I do not believe for 1 second that in America, because you're seeing rebellions all over the country. See what's happening in Australia? People are sick of these lockdowns. They said the cure is worse than the disease. And it is. The mental health issues, the anxiety issues, the alcoholism, the addiction problem are so off the charts because of this that I don't think people are going to respond to that. I really don't think we here in America are going to do that on a mass scale. I just, especially in the South, but in many places all across the country, and we'll talk about how the economy, this Build Back Better bill, my goodness, you want to put out another $4 trillion of phony money on top of rising inflation. I mean, it's a recipe for a disaster that will take generations to come back from if they go forward on this. So I don't see at this point them doing that, because my wife was very, very concerned. I know people out there, they're going to shut it down. They shouldn't. And you see the blood pressures all over the country going up again. And I for one, I just don't see it happening. And I hope I'm right on that. Okay, we got this Fauci. We got to listen to Fauci. You think I made that up? He said, if you basically criticize me, meaning Fauci, that you're criticizing science. He speaks for science. Jose's got that. Go ahead, Jose.
Carefully realizes that there's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, so it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
In his own words. His own words. Oh, God. I represent science. Basically, he's sciences. Now, Jose, do you know when exactly the ceremony took place where he was designated by the science community as the representative of science? Was there a graduation ceremony? Did he get a little hat, get a little tassel, or like a medal that officially crowned him and anointed him as the representative of all science? Did that happen? I don't think so.
Hey, maybe that's some Illuminati stuff that we don't know about.
Yeah, the Illuminatis ordained him as the representative of science. Oh my gosh. And you know, I know he looks like somebody you want to like and trust. I did. He just looks like, and I know better. I've got, in Hollywood, I had some people I looked up to as actors, and I'm going, man, that dude's going to be I wish I could meet that guy. But when I was an actor, when I was playing football, just a kid, boy, I wish I could meet that guy. Seems like he's a wonderful dude, man. We could hang out. And then I got a chance to meet some of them. And they were horrible human beings. They weren't anything like I made up in my mind. And, you know, one of the things early on, W.C. Fields, you know, it's like, hey, get out of here, kids, you bother me. He actually did. He hated kids. But you had some of these other, Bob Saget. I hate to do it. Well, Bob Saget wouldn't care anyway. Probably liked it talking about it. The guy on, was it Full House? Bob Saget. Anyway, it was a kid's show. And he was the perfect dad. And he, you know, on the show, I think I got the show right. I think it was Full House. Look it up for me. Somebody send me an email whether I'm right or wrong on that. But he just was just a everyday, he was the modern day Ozzy of Ozzy and Harriet. Just a traditional guy, always leading kids the right way. Wouldn't say, you know, just a good guy. Then I got to meet him. He came on the set of Grace Under Fire when I was doing the guest starring there for a year, playing Brett Butler's boyfriend, which is a whole show in itself. We'll talk about that someday. But her best friend was Bob Saget. So Bob Saget comes to dinner with us. We went out to dinner, all of us, and Bob Saget opens his mouth. He is the foul mouth I have ever seen. He makes a drunken, profane sailor seem like Billy Graham. He was effing this, mother effing this, and talking about people and putting down people. I just sit there in amazement. You judge by the cover of that book, the Bob Saget cover, seemed completely different. It was completely different than the book. Well, Anthony Fauci, you know, he's a little guy. He's got that accent, you know, that calming accent like you'd go to get advice if you had a relationship problem. You know, Uncle Tony, I'm really having trouble with this, you know, with my relationship. What do I do? Well, tell the girl you love her. Tell her that you love her. Give her a big hug. That's what I'd see early on that he'd give the advice. And he'd been a bureaucrat for 40-something years. He had survived like 3 or 4 administrations. That right then should have been a red flag for me. That he is a survivor. He's a chameleon. Whatever he needs to do to survive to the next administration, he's going to do. But then as time went on, and he started being the face of this pandemic and all of the contradictions, the hypocrisy. And in many cases, you have to look at it and say, I can't come to any other conclusion, but he's just downright lying right now. You just go prove it. Look up on the internet what he said 6 months ago or last year. Look, you're a liar. And you're thinking, no, not this guy. He's not a liar. Meanwhile, CNN, MSNBC, all the other left wing are still, you know, propping him up as the trusted voice of science. And then he started going on his show, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, Jake Tapper. They softball him here and that. And then it happened. When I knew we had a monster here. We didn't have somebody that was going to shoot us straight. We had a guy who was enjoying his 15 minutes of fame and was determined to stretch that 15 minutes as long as he possibly could. He liked the spotlight more than Jerry Dyer here locally, our mayor. And that is a lot. Jerry Dyer never met a camera or an interview that he didn't like. I mean, he's the other one. You know, most interviewers, they quit, you know, after a couple hours of talking. Jerry goes, can we go another 3 or 4? I mean, he needs to have his own series. That might cure him a little bit. Fauci was worse than Dyer. To my knowledge, Dyer never did the cover of Esquire. Maybe he'd like to. He would love to do the cover of Esquire. But Fauci, this guy did the cover of Esquire in the middle of a pandemic when people are dying. And he poses on the cover. He's just smiling. He's smiling. You know, he's not on the cover of science journals talking about serious subjects. He agrees to be on the cover of Esquire. That's the first indication. Believe me. Well, you say, Alan, you're drawing a lot of it. No, let me tell you, I've been around a lot of big egos in my day. I have. I've been around college professors, been around college football coaches, huge egos. I've been around professional athletes, was one, humongous egos. Got into the movie business. Few egos running around there in Hollywood, aren't they? And then politics, which strangely enough has the biggest egos of all of those put together, are political egos. He was this little bureaucrat. And when I say little, I don't mean making fun of his height. I'm not height shaming. I'm saying he was not known back in the recesses of the bureaucracy. Got in front of the camera during the Trump administration, and he liked it. So we're stuck with somebody here who's going to do whatever it takes, I think, number one agenda, to keep him in front of the cameras. And if that means saying that the Omicron is coming our way, and this Omicron virus is the virus that these Hollywood movies have warned you about. COVID-19 wasn't, but this Omicron is. Why? Well, at this point, he really has no choice if he wants to stay in the spotlight. Because even though the COVID infections are going up, they're going up in states that are the most vaccinated. He and the president said, get vaccinated and they'll go down. This is a disease of the unvaccinated, where you have in the South, in particular Florida, which has the lowest infection rate in the nation. They never shut down schools. They never shut down businesses. And they have the lowest infection rate. How can that be? Well, let's go ask the representative of science. He's the representative. So Science Fauci, I'm just going to call him Science. Oh, SF, Science Fauci. Let's go ask SF. What's going on here? Well, he can't explain it. I guess it's a scientific phenomena. Then you ask him, Mr. Science, Mr. S. Teachers like you to call him by their first letter. But Mr. S, how do you explain that the worst infections in the country are in the 5 states that are the most vaccinated? Vermont, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, I believe, and one other. 87% vaccination rate in those states. Yet they have the highest infection rate. To quote Marvin Gaye, what's going on? What is going on here? Well, Mr. Science, you know, it's the fact of the matter is, it took me a long time to say this. I've kind of beat around the bush the last few months, but I'm willing to take a stand on this emphatically. And again, as I say that, open to be corrected. Anybody wants to come on and show me data or make an argument that could move me off of this position I'm about to take, more than welcome to hear it. Want to hear it. Won't run from a debate of any kind, actually. Because I'm not afraid to say, you know what, I never thought about it that way. You know, you might be right. I don't mind saying that. In fact, I kind of like saying that when I truly believe it, because I feel I've gotten a little bit more wise. I know, see, I'm like Socrates. I know I don't know anything. I don't know. That's Socrates, who was the one that Plato and Aristotle looked up to. Socrates said he never wrote anything. Plato wrote about his conversations with Socrates. And Socrates' claim to fame was, I know nothing. I just ask questions. He says, I'm wise enough to know that I don't know everything, even a tenth of everything. What I'm about to say here is that Anthony Fauci, now I know you're going to call, hey, make the big wait for this announcement. And then when I say it, you're going to roll your eyes going, well, that's pretty obvious, Alan. But for me, I've just reached this conclusion that Anthony Fauci and President Joe Biden are not just liars, they're compulsive liars. Now, when I say that, I'm not condemning their soul, because everybody lies in Washington. On the right, Republicans, Democrats, they all lie. It's the preponderance of lies. The one after the other with this president. It goes all the way back to him plagiarizing an entire speech from a British intellectual to, we won't leave any American behind in Afghanistan, to the $4 trillion stimulus bill or Build Back Better bill will cost nothing. He just said the other day that when he took over, unemployment was 14%. You can't find that on any database. It was a little less than 6% when he took office. He said it was 14% just yesterday. And sometimes you just become a compulsive liar, meaning when you're left not knowing what to say, you just lie. And I think Mr. Science is, if not already there, is, got one. He's not far from it. And like I said, he might be there. He might be teaching Biden. Who knows? He might be the master. Probably is. He's probably the Plato to Biden's Aristotle. Oh, my gosh. Did I just mention Joe Biden and Fauci in the same breath as Plato and Aristotle? I need some severe punishment for that one. But anyway, that's my point. And we have to proceed in this country as such. We can just curse the darkness or turn on the light. But what do you mean by that, Autry? Well, I mean, hey, okay, we got a president that lies all the time. So how do we work through it? Just getting up there and yelling, liar, liar, pants on fire, not going to do it. How do we, as good Americans that care about this country and care about the type of country we're leaving to our children and grandchildren, how do we work through this in a positive way, knowing what we're dealing with? We know what the WFL, the woke far left, is all about. They put in office two of the most incompetent people in government that we've ever seen, the most incompetent president, most incompetent vice president that we've ever seen. And we have a person who's trying to navigate us through this pandemic who also uses lying as a tool to get what he wants. Why? Because they think we're a bunch of idiots. We think, and that's the only conclusion you can take. As Jack Nicholson said on the stands, we can't handle the truth because they're so intellectually anointed that they have to lie to us, and lying is rationalized and is part of their Marxist toolbox because they actually love us, but we're so non-advanced intellectually to where they are. Someday we'll be there. That's how these people think. Someday you'll be there. He's intellectually anointed. That they feel. The common man and woman can get there. We're just not there yet. So in the meantime, for their own good, for our own good, they feel the moral right to lie. So what we have to tell them is, no, thank you. Not only now are we going to expect you to tell us the truth, we're going to demand that you tell us the truth. And Democrats, I see many Democrats, the polls reflected, that you see this too. And when it comes to the midterms, I'm going to quote a politician I thought I'd never quote, but you'll probably know who it is what do you have to lose? And look what you have to save when you go to that ballot box in November 2022 next year. There has to be a change. Now, you can't change the vice president and the president till 2024, but you can change the Senate and the House. And I promise you, I make you this promise. If, I give you my word, if this kind of craziness, this kind of lying, these kind of decisions, when you tell somebody that a $4 trillion inflection of phony money during runaway inflation is not going to cause more inflation, it's going to cost zero. If that would have come out of the mouth of Kevin McCarthy or come out of the mouth of Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or anybody on the right, I would be saying the same thing right now. You're compulsive liars that have to go. That's why I'm a registered independent. I knew there would be days like this. They all can lie. They all have it within them to do crazy stuff like this administration's done. They really do. And on the show, maybe tomorrow, we'll talk about an instance out of after World War II during the Nuremberg trials. And I think it kind of is a manifestation of what evil can lurk in everyone. But something has to change, and time is not our ally. So as we wait for that election, November 2022, we have to stand up to the school boards. You got to say no more CRT. When they say, hey, we got to shut down, this state mandates you shut down, don't shut down. Go outside. Them telling you to go inside and stay inside is the same thing that Andrew Cuomo told the old people when he stuck them back in to that retirement home and killed thousands and thousands of older folks, of seniors, because he sent them with COVID back in to the COVID nursing home. He will be sending, and I hope this governor doesn't do it, Gavin Newsom. If he instructs that to this state, to go and being confined in your own homes around people and breathing the same, that's the same exact thing. More people were killed by the lockdowns by COVID than if they would have been out and about. My goodness, do you remember they closed down parks? You find out now that's where everybody should have been. Beaches, they closed down beaches. There's no more social distance place you can go than a park and a beach. Nobody goes to a park and cuddles up next to somebody they don't know. You know, hey, you want some of my sandwich, Mac? Oh, yeah, I can have a sandwich. I got an apple here out of my picnic basket. You want? No, they don't. They spread out, just like they do on a beach. But they shut down beaches. They were wrong. They said stay inside. And then you saw when Andrew Cuomo got his statistics back, because of New York City, of all places, you got to stay inside. And if we've seen most of the apartments in New York are these tiny little closets, not really apartments. And when the statistics came back, he saw that 79% of the new infections came from people that were shut down in their homes and apartments. He was astounded. He goes, well, how did this happen? Well, Mr. Science, Anthony Fauci said do it, and you did it, and you went against your common sense. I was telling everybody early on, that's why I was riding my bike. I was going to the gym, but the gym shut down, George Brown shut down. I found out where there was another gym, these like outlying gyms that said, we're going to stay open. There was 3 or 4 of them. I'm going to tell you where they are, because they defied the shutdown, and God bless them. How many lives they saved? I went to the grocery store. I got in trouble for a couple of times not wearing my mask. But I knew, my common sense told me that you needed to be out and about and moving, not stuck in a home, even with your own family. So there we are. Omicron, here it comes. We know what Mr. Science, Anthony Fauci, is going to do and what Biden is going to do. He's going to mandate, they're going to try to mandate the same old deal because they think they can get some political advantage out of it. My suggestion, don't do it. Be smart, don't do it. Check with your doctor, use your common sense, and make your own decision, because that's your God-given right to do so. Hey, folks, God bless you, love you, and good Lord willing, creek don't rise. We're going to have Larry Powell with us tomorrow. Larry's back on Wednesday. God bless, love you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye now. Oh, folks, Facebook folks, thank you so much. Love y'all. And really look forward to tomorrow. Hopefully, Larry just texted me. He's been really, really busy. But it looks like he's going to be able to make it in tomorrow. So I'm always excited to have Larry with us, because we always, I know me personally and us as a team always, as I say, get a little bit wiser and know a little bit more after Larry spent some time with us. All right. Love y'all. Bye-bye now.